The story begins in the heart of Quezon City, Manila, where life moves fast but dreams move even faster. In a narrow neighborhood lined with tricycles, tangled electric wires, and rows of modest houses, Miguel Reyes grew up learning the true meaning of perseverance. His family owned a small sari-sari store on the ground floor of their home, and from a young age, Miguel helped stock shelves, count coins, and greet customers with a smile. Money was never abundant, but love, faith, and music filled every corner of their home. Miguel's love for singing began before he could even understand what a dream was. As a child, he would sit beside the old radio his father kept on the kitchen counter, listening to classic OPM songs by Regine Velasquez, Gary Valenciano, and Lea Salonga. At night, when the city noise softened, Miguel would quietly hum melodies while gazing at the Manila skyline from their rooftop. Music became his refuge, a place where worries disappeared and hope felt possible. School was not easy for Miguel. He faced moments of self-doubt and exhaustion, especially when he had to balance his studies with helping his family. After classes, he rushed home to assist at the store, often finishing homework late into the night. Yet no matter how tired he was, he always found time to sing. Neighbors began to notice his voice drifting through the evening air, clear, emotional, and filled with sincerity. Some would pause on their way home just to listen, while others would quietly say, "May talento ang batang yan." Despite the encouragement, Miguel struggled with fear. He wondered if someone like him, a simple Filipino boy from Quezon City, could ever be seen or heard beyond his neighborhood. He auditioned for local competitions, sometimes winning small prizes, other times going home disappointed. Each rejection stung, but it also strengthened his resolve. His mother often reminded him, "Hindi ka binigyan ng Diyos ng boses na yan para sumuko." Those words stayed with him through every challenge. One rainy evening, while scrolling through his phone after a long day, Miguel saw an online post about auditions for America's Got Talent. His heart raced. The idea felt impossible, traveling to another country, performing before world-famous judges, and representing the Philippines on a global stage. Fear crept in, but so did hope. That night, he knelt beside his bed and prayed, asking for courage more than success. Preparing for the audition meant sacrifices. Miguel woke up before sunrise to practice vocals, studied technique through free online videos, and saved every peso he could. His family stood behind him fully, even when it meant tightening their already limited budget. On the day his audition was accepted, his parents cried, not from worry, but from pride. As Miguel packed his worn suitcase, he stood once more on the rooftop where it all began. The city lights flickered below him, and the distant sounds of Manila surrounded him. With trembling hands and a steady heart, he whispered, "Para sa pamilya ko. Para sa Pilipinas." In that moment, Miguel Reyes was no longer just a boy with a dream, he was a voice ready to be heard by the world. The moment Miguel Reyes stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage, the weight of everything he had ever dreamed of settled on his shoulders. The bright lights were blinding, the theater vast and intimidating, far different from the small neighborhood stages back in Quezon City. His heart pounded as he stood at the center of the stage, hearing the distant murmur of the audience and feeling the silent anticipation in the air. For a brief second, doubt crept into his mind, but he took a deep breath and reminded himself why he was there, not just for himself, but for his family and for the Philippines. When Miguel introduced himself, his accent carried warmth and sincerity. He spoke about growing up in Manila, about singing on rooftops and in quiet streets, and about how music had always been his source of strength. The audience listened closely, some smiling, others nodding as they connected with his story. The judges thanked him, and as the music cue echoed through the theater, Miguel closed his eyes for a heartbeat, grounding himself. The first note left his lips softly, almost fragile, floating through the room like a gentle whisper. The audience leaned forward, unsure of what to expect. Then, as he continued, his voice grew richer and more powerful, filling the entire theater with emotion. Every lyric carried the weight of his journey, every struggle, sacrifice, and hope woven into each phrase. The audience's quiet curiosity quickly turned into astonishment as his voice soared effortlessly across the melody. As Miguel reached the chorus, the transformation was undeniable. His voice climbed higher, controlled yet full of passion, resonating deep within the hearts of everyone listening. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Some audience members exchanged stunned looks, while others placed their hands over their mouths in disbelief. The judges straightened in their chairs, eyes fixed on the stage, clearly unprepared for the magnitude of his talent. Midway through the performance, Miguel delivered a high note so pure and powerful that the room seemed to freeze. It was a moment suspended in time, no movement, no sound, just a voice commanding the entire space. When he transitioned smoothly back into the melody, the audience erupted into applause, unable to contain their amazement. A few people stood up, cheering, as the emotion in Miguel's voice reached its peak. With every line, his confidence grew stronger. The fear that once threatened to overwhelm him faded, replaced by a sense of purpose and belonging. He was no longer thinking about the judges or the cameras. He was singing from his soul, pouring every ounce of himself into the performance. Tears welled in his eyes, but his voice never wavered. As the final note rang out, Miguel held it with stunning control, letting it echo before gently releasing it into silence. For a split second, the theater remained still, then it exploded with thunderous applause. The audience rose to their feet, cheering wildly. Miguel stood frozen, overwhelmed, as he realized that his voice had reached far beyond the stage. In that moment, a Filipino dream had truly crossed borders. As the final note faded into silence, Miguel Reyes stood motionless at the center of the stage, his chest rising and falling as he tried to absorb what had just happened. The thunderous applause crashed over him like a wave, growing louder with every passing second. The audience was on their feet, clapping, cheering, and shouting his name. Miguel's hands trembled as he bowed slightly, his eyes scanning the sea of faces before him. For a brief moment, he felt as though time had slowed, allowing him to truly feel the magnitude of that moment. At the judges' table, the reactions were impossible to miss. Sofia Vergara smiled widely, shaking her head in disbelief. Heidi Klum pressed her hands together, clearly moved by the emotion of the performance. Howie Mandel leaned forward, nodding repeatedly as if trying to process what he had just witnessed. But it was Simon Cowell who captured everyone's attention. Known for his tough critiques and high standards, Simon sat quietly, his expression serious yet unmistakably impressed. When the applause finally softened, Simon leaned toward the microphone. "Miguel," he began, pausing as the crowd hushed, "I have to be honest with you." Miguel's heart skipped a beat. Simon continued, "The moment you walked out, I wasn't sure what to expect. But the second you started singing, everything changed." The audience murmured in agreement. Simon's tone grew warmer as he spoke. That was not just a good audition, that was a professional, world-class performance. Miguel felt tears sting his eyes as Simon explained how rare it was to hear a voice with such control, emotion, and authenticity. "You didn't just hit the notes," Simon said. "You told a story. And you made everyone in this room feel it." The crowd erupted once again, cheering loudly. Simon added, "This is exactly why this show exists, to find talent like yours from anywhere in the world." One by one, the judges shared their praise, each offering words that only deepened Miguel's disbelief. When it came time to vote, the answers were clear and unanimous. For emphatic yes votes echoed across the theater. The screen behind Miguel lit up, confirming his place in the next round. Miguel covered his face, unable to hold back his emotions. He thought of his parents watching from home in Quezon City, of the long nights on the rooftop, of every moment he had doubted himself. He whispered a quiet, "Salamat pa," his voice breaking as he bowed deeply. As he walked off the stage, Simon's words lingered in his mind, and Miguel knew his life had changed forever. A Filipino voice had been heard, and it had left an unforgettable mark on the world.